All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your market check-in here with myself, Greta. I'm your host. I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of TQ Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. David, this is actually our first stream together of the year because we just haven't been able to make it happen over the since the year started because I was out and then whatever. So
All right. I don't think I knew that. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right. So there's a lot to talk about. Where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about Meta? Do you want to talk about gold? Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about my dance moves. What do you think?
I mean, we can do that.
Cool.
You can show us your dance moves.
Why don't we go through the state of the markets, just kind of overall
Yeah,
broad, since we have
definitely.
it. We
Sure.
have a market that has obviously changed, right? And we've had amazing leadership from small caps and biotech all till a week ago. And then it was a matter of earnings season. So I would say it's been a market not to fade. There's been alpha to the upside, whether it be via the metals, whether it be small caps, whether it be biotech, over and over. And then really before it became too easy to just buy IWM and think it's going to the moon, everyone said, wait a second, some of those MAG7 companies are real. Let's buy those. So it's just being cognizant that there's so much underneath the hood to understand that, frankly, software is a dead industry. Now, the narrative may be wrong, but the narrative is driving the stock prices. So it's like, hey, where do you avoid if you're a short-term swing trader so you don't get hurt? Like, why catch a bottom in ServiceNow or Snowflake or CRM? And where's their short-term alpha? Where are their positive themes popping up, like space? We're seeing, Rocket Labs and AST fly weekly. So it's really been a month to take note of changes. And then finally, not to drink the Kool-Aid. In other words, as of last week, IWM slowed down and we saw big moves in Meta. Forget today's earnings. And we saw a bounce in Amazon that was tremendous. So it was kind of a come to realization that there is so much going on that week to week you have to be paying attention. And then finally, the two mega alpha trades of the year are absolutely memory and storage, right? SanDisk, Seagate, Western Digital, and Micron, and obviously silver and gold. And that's been like that's the ultimate internet trade. I like to anything that's insane that goes up and never pulls back. Being an old man, remember 99? That's been the ultimate internet trade of the year, right? Just endless bids. And really understanding why these things are moving, why maybe shorting SanDisk is cute for cash flow once upon a time. It still is every once in a while, but that you can't bet against these trends because of supply demand, because of the earnings power, because of the PE. So what I've really told people, and most around me are doing well to be not modest. It's understanding what's going on, so you know what to skip, right? Like I told people today, hey, if you're a value investor, that's cool. But let me tell you about value investors. They're very intelligent, they're very patient, and they have a big bank book. And if you don't, trying to find the bottom in software is a really dumb idea, especially if you lack enough liquidity to then do other things. So I think it's a year to just completely pay attention and then understand on top of everything else, we have a Fed chairman who I said is going to be very neutral to maybe slightly hawkish. He's not going to be helpful. He wasn't yesterday. It's to understand that Iran is constantly in the news. It's to understand that Minnesota is absolutely not just important for this country, that other people are watching what's going on. And then finally, the all important dollar, which has been king dollar, greenback, the way the world runs, maybe is being threatened, that maybe it's a little less important, and that changes the dynamics of everything. So being a bit more educated than normal, not thinking, oh, well, that MBIS is going to go to 200, I'll just buy more. It's not that type of year. It's really understanding what's driving alpha in the memory, how far they can go, if they're being re-rated, if Micron is up 1,000,000%, why it might not pull back because it's no longer a commodity company, it's a growth company, and it's going from 10 times PE to 20 times, which means it can keep going. It's really just being educated, or at least on top of things enough to understand how these dynamics work. It's to understand that gold can have a forever bid because it's not just a bunch of retail schmucks buying it, it's every central bank in the world. So I don't know if that was cohesive, but that's my update as of now. And then we'll have a lot of individual stuff to go through.
Good stuff, David.
Did that make any sense? You could tell me if it was all over the place.
No, that was good. You covered all the bases for sure. And what's so different about this year's already compared to last year. Let's talk about metals. Obviously, we had the huge silver run, and then we had the huge gold run.
Yeah, gold
and
really, this last
and
part was all about gold.
Gold
Yes,
was
silver's up.
crazy last night. Like, that was insane watching that move happen last night.
I've never
on the short
seen
side
it. I've seen war.
for that move.
I've seen terrorism. I've never seen gold the way it was between 7 and 8 o'clock last night.
Yeah.
That move from 500 to 515 on the GLD. That was, wow.
And then down. What was it, a $1.2 trillion swing?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the numbers were unbelievable. When you really
Yeah.
put hard numbers to it, you thought, this is crazy. This reminds me of 1999 and some little internet stock that has like 5 million shares in the float, except it's gold. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Before gold, there was silver, and you weren't long on the silver trade. You were playing it on the short side.
Yeah, I wasn't the smart one who bought it at 30 and sat on my butt. There's no doubt.
But you looked at the levels and you saw where you could, cash flow for a while, and then you got the big trade in silver. Right. Yeah. You had the smaller trades, and then it became big. And you were definitely on the right side there. So walk us through what you were looking at on the silver trade and why you stuck short, and you held, you were solid on your thesis and you stuck with it.
So I have, at least at my age, grown up enough to know there's no reason to fade strong trends and look for a pullback to get in, right? And if you miss it and they've gone too far, there's always a very logical thing to do. Just do nothing. You missed it. It's fine. Just because you missed something on the upside doesn't mean you have to short. So I work by that general theory. However, I have made a lot of my money through the years on these epic 2 or 3 day unwind trades, right? And I don't want to be too repetitive because we've talked about it here, but I was very loud and very short SMCI years ago, Tilray, literally MicroStrategy, and we can go on and on. But it's every few months or once a year. These don't come around a lot. So on silver and gold, like anyone, I'm kind of looking for those moments. But I'm not like slowly over 2 weeks averaging in, because that's a way to like kill your career. There's either a moment to find these reversals and get close and do them, just wait for a long entry or just skip it. So what I always say is I look for levels of insanity that include the RSI, that include a little bit of X insanity and how people are talking, that include my friends teaching me, right? Speaking at me about the lack of supply. I mean, I know these things, I can read. And then everyone talking about China and paying up for the hard metal itself, and how the dollar is losing its value, and the more the dollar goes down, there's an automatic big gold, and you hear all that. And then you hear it, and it becomes so loud, and it becomes so impossible to think that gold can't possibly ever go down. Those are the moments I look for these grand shorts, for epic reversals, try not to catch the bottom. I did one in silver last week, got very sized, didn't catch the top. I never catch the top, but I always get, within reason, or else don't do the trade. But I always tell everyone, if they want to follow me on these types of trades, this is for big boys and girls only. You got to be willing to be down a little bit. You just never catch the exact moment. So for me, SLV, I was sized in the high 104s, got to almost 107, didn't feel great, turned over. Same day it was 100. I said, listen, I know it feels like, you made some money. But you don't go through all that work not to make real money. So you really got to leave room to do most of your covering, mid to low 90s. That night it hit like 92. I said, listen, that might be the top. You're not talking to a macro expert. I mean, I'm better than your average Joe, but I don't pretend to know where this wild move ends, that's a lot of money we just made. That's a huge reversal. I'm done. It feels like any bounce should be sold, but I'm done. And I said, and it might make a new high next week. I wouldn't be shocked. Well, sure enough, the following day, it was back above 100. I personally shorted some, made a few dollars, but here we are. It made a new high just yesterday. So that was silver. And I said, okay, I'm done for a little bit. But then gold, which was lagging in terms of the size of the move as a percentage, right? We all know silver made an insane percentage move, started to play catch up. And we all know that gold is a little bit more serious of a trade. You have, some of the biggest money in the world, central banks literally plowing into it as they're trying to avoid their own inflation, their own currency, or rely less on the US currency. So anyway, it just goes and goes and goes. And yesterday I said at about 490 to 495, I said, listen, I can't tell you this is the top. It doesn't feel like it. But boy, at 88 relative strength, it's setting up a little bit like silver. To force myself to take it seriously, I'm going to short a little bit here. And I'm going to hope tomorrow morning I'm down 20 points. And then I'm really going to short some side.
Is that when you shorted it like a little bit before the close yesterday? You and Kira
No,
both took like a small.
absolutely not. No, no, no. Before the close of the stock market, I
Right.
was shorting it at like 490. Now, after the close of the stock market last night, as we're trading earnings, because we're very active with Meta, Microsoft, etc., all of a sudden
Mhm.
gold is up 20 points in after hours. And I'm shorting 505, 508, 510, and then between 510 and 515, I said, listen, you can't just follow me. You have to understand that I've never seen this. But I believe the risk reward is so substantial here. I'm not waiting for tomorrow morning. Originally, I was waiting for tomorrow morning, right? Because big up open. I'm like, this feels like the world's ending. I kept asking, I go, is there a bomb going off somewhere? Have we invaded? Was there a terrorist event? Because I have never seen this type of move. Gold's trading like a small cap stock with 2 million shares in the float. And I got to about 70, 80% of a position. I said, if it opens tomorrow, I have some more firepower, but this feels like the spot. Got lucky. That frantic move pulled back to 501 at the low, 502. Covered about half and said we can live to play tomorrow again. I hope we have enough open now. Added back some at 509. Now let me finalize things. Today, we got a signal. Every real trader always looks for a signal, where to get large, where to cover. All of a sudden, we're talking about Iran all day, right? We're about to enter. There's about to be the beginning of a war. Certain, aircraft carriers are moving, and this is all we're hearing about. And gold and silver are not reacting. That's called a signal, right? Kind of like when you buy a stock, it has great numbers and it goes down. That's a signal to get the F out. Or maybe buy a stock, it has horrible news and it goes up, strong signal. Same thing. Today, you got your very first signal that short term, there might be a new direction. And I said to people, it was about 503, 502, 503. I said, I know we're up some money now, but the real money probably is going to come a few minutes. I'll walk you through what happened. It was funny. And as the market's really coming in hard, someone said, FIGR, do you like it? I said, eye on the prize. Gold and Meta. Another person said to me, BM&R, you like it? I said, eye on the prize, gold and Meta. I was like, there is some serious volatility here and you can make your day or week. Please focus. So I said, we'll get to at least the 480s. When we do, I'll probably cover my short because I'm not going to try and get to the bottom. Bottom line is within 20 minutes, gold plummeted. I started like covering 10%, 10% every 3-4 points. 485, I said, I'm done. I covered it. And that was metal. The way I can sum it up, though, is I'm not scale selling, building massive positions short as a swing for a month from now. I'm looking for extreme moments of fear, panic, RSI, and saying, okay, I am at least looking for a major short-term reversal. And I'm fine. And I covered 485, and someone joking around goes, dude, you gave up so much money. It went 460s. I go, come on. I was like, we covered silver at 92. The next day it was 105. Sure enough, gold's at 491. I don't look dumb anymore. So I really caution people, one, to have a bankroll to do this sort of trade. So I walk people through, how do you size? You size small till you really feel this is the optimum level. So I told people in gold yesterday, if you're following me, you better be prepared for an up open tomorrow to really lay into it. And again, know your mindset. Like, can you afford this type of risk mentally to actually stay with it? And thank God we've gone through it a lot, at least in the inner circle. So I'm proud to say a lot of people killed it. It was awesome, and so was silver. Now I'm also not proud to say that had I understand the macro dimensions of what's going on in the world, I just would have bought gold and silver a million points ago and been long in them. I have some good stock calls like the immunomes, but I wish I was a big part of the long side. I wasn't, but that is never why I shorted, right? I didn't short SMCI because I wasn't long, because frankly, I was long and made a fortune on SMCI. But I do love these panic upside moves, because to me, when gold's moving like that, that's actually panic, right? It's panic about the dollar. It's panic about war. It's panic of people that they don't own it. So I find those to be wonderful areas for at least short-term reversals. And that's how we played both silver and gold.
Yeah. A lot of comparisons on Twitter that, and you mentioned it, gold trading like a small cap, gold trading like a cryptocurrency. Like, these are the crazy
Last
moves.
night, you had to be around last night.
Do you think this changes the behavior of this kind of trade long term, or is this just a short term thing?
I don't think it's a short-term thing. I think gold would have stopped 100, like GLD 100 points ago. Gold itself maybe $500 or $1,000
Yeah.
ago. If this was a short-term thing, again, I really always want to say, hey, there's got to be someone that has a better macro view of the overall world, and really that's their expertise. I'm probably going to be a better trader than them, but the point is, there's probably someone better with that. But my gut, when I look at the metals, right? When I look at the division within our country, when I look at a president, neither good nor bad. A lot of people know I like some things he does, I love some things not. But all I know is when you ostracize other countries that used to be our friends, whether you like NATO or not, when you threaten to literally invade other countries that we have treaties with, when you threaten 100% tariffs on friendly nations and then change your mind, I don't think it at least helps them embrace the dollar or trust. So I am of the thought, between being in an expensive market, between all other markets, like all these markets around the world, from Latin America to you name it, outperforming ours, there's a lot going on to say there is a at least temporary change in the US's power and, let's say, domination in markets and currency. And I think metals are confirming that, like, to the nth degree. They're saying, if you didn't know, now you know. That's really what I think's going on. Now, that doesn't mean they go up forever. That just means, a lot of people like to say, well, this happened with the dollar about a decade ago. And that didn't last very long. I think some people are betting this decade is not like last decade. We might have a different president in office. We might be doing things differently. Our markets might have hit levels we've never seen before. There might be other countries that are more advanced than they were a decade ago. There might be more competition for currency people value. They might literally be using Bitcoin. There's so many differences. So I'm open to the fact that maybe there's a change, that the US are a great power. We like to say we're we're the greatest democracy and the greatest capitalist country, that maybe other people don't quite feel like we feel at the moment, or at least more than they believe it, less than they have in many, many years. And that changes the way we trade and the stocks we embrace, and certainly the commodity trade itself.
All right, let's talk about earnings real quick. The big ones yesterday were Meta, Microsoft, Tesla. Meta, the big winner, obviously, of the night, up over 9% today. Market liked it. Microsoft's a loser, and not just Microsoft, but the whole friggin' software sector as a whole. Software,
Yeah, I think
that's how
it's
it's in a
now
bear market now.
it's illegal to buy
Yeah.
a software stock. Trump said so. It's just done.
Yeah. So it's, it's not just Microsoft that's getting hit. It's Microsoft, ServiceNow, Salesforce, like all of your software names getting hit hard by the Microsoft reaction. And then Tesla, not as bad as Microsoft, but
It
not
was a
good like
little less bad
Meta.
expectations, and then there
Yeah.
was a lot of positive narrative about, hey, robots are a hell of a lot more important than cars. Evidently, the market's weak enough. Like, it's not getting killed, but the market's weak
Yeah.
enough that narrative change isn't powerful enough to people, right?
Mhm.
It's
So
not
everyone's all in on Meta today. And this is interesting because the last Meta earnings report was the first report that we saw a really negative reaction to the capex and their spend on AI, and the market was like, "You're not making enough money to support this kind of spend." And so, what changed in the report that the market really likes it? And
yeah, and it's
all
why
is
it
good.
became a really easy focus for us, Meta and gold today.
Mhm.
So for several quarters, Meta is a really simple story. Increase profitability, increase revenue growth, increase verticals like Reels and monetizing WhatsApp, and higher capex being offset by that amazing growth. And then last quarter, that amazing growth was no longer large enough to offset the higher capex, and it got murdered. So there's no one on the street that didn't know that you're really looking at their capex number. Capex number comes up and it's a bit higher. It wasn't egregious, but it didn't plateau and it wasn't going lower. So the stock trades lower for a second. But what no one else factored in is that magnificent growth that always offset, right? They didn't think it would come back so quickly. That always offset that capex. That would come back right away. So the minute he guided for not one or two, but over like nearly 4 billion higher for the current quarters he's in, and then they looked at the year number and said, oh, there's future guidance coming up. They realized profitability really is back up. And we can actually look past this higher capex. And there was some commentary about a plateau, at least in Reality Labs, that at least like it's hit its peak as far as spending. So that was it, right? We bought it after hours. I sold it way too soon. I was pissed. I made like 10 points and missed 30. But we bought it after hours. And I said, listen, after I sold it, I said, oh, they got it. I didn't know the news. Sadly, we screwed up on our news system. And I didn't know the news that it got it higher. And I was like, this isn't going to stop. This is just keep going. And it was like 700. And I had already sold it. So I just said, I'm not buying it back. But I told everyone, I said, this stock's not stopping. And we got to 742. It's like a gap fill if you look on the chart. Anyhow, so that's what happened yesterday. And then very often that's how I focus on the day forward. So I looked at the opportunity in the market today and said, there's what I call a day after trade in the market. We do those very often. It's really a trend trade. Takes out the opening high, you're long. Takes out the opening low, you're short. And then there's the real money trade. And I told people the real money trade on Meta is a significant pullback off the AM high. You can have a lot of short-term traders be like, oh, this is untouchable because it's off its highs. I always see that crap. And then you're going to have some short-term swing traders and investors say, this is priced to make some real money. So I told everyone, my price to make real money on Meta is 720. I started early because I always do about like it was like 10% at 729 and more at 725. And it bounced to 730. I said, I don't think it's finished. So I'm going to trim some, not because I was up a few bucks, but just because I said 720 is my meaty area. And it starts plummeting. The market starts plummeting. 725, 723, 720, 719, built a good sized position. Did the calls for next week in my newsletter. Greta helped me with it so she could tell me the price. We did the 725s and really took a
We
stab.
went 14 and we were out at almost 21 on
20, yeah,
on the
20,
last
21.
exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so between calls and I said this risk reward sets up here really well here. Moreover, the market was plummeting and you could see some real bids coming into Meta, meaning the NAS was down 300, 400, and Meta was really finding buyers. So I said, okay, I'm real comfortable here. But again, this is not a friendly market. In fact, there are a couple like longer term positions. I was like, I don't like this. And I started pruning a few things. But Meta, we really focused on, and then once it got to 7:33, I don't know, it was about 20 minutes ago, I got to a trailer. Not because I don't like Meta, it's super profitable and super viable on dips. There are not a lot of MAG7 names in this position that are reigniting growth. That they're none that trade at this PE. The problem is, well, it's Thursday. Things seem to be heating up geopolitically. We have more earnings tonight, namely Apple and SanDisk. So I think there's reason to be a bit more cautious and buy on pullbacks. We all know that NAS was down 600 not too long ago. It was an hour ago. So I took some profits. Why not? It was a home run day trade. I'm looking to build a swing, but I'll do it on pullbacks. And ideally, I've tightened up positions. I don't want too many positions. I look at the Q chart. I'm not a chartist. I mean, I read a chart with the best of them, but I like to say that's not my focus. I look at charts and everything I do. It's just I don't claim to be like some expert. Anyway, the point is the Q's just double topped. They 637, and we got to like 50 cents of an all-time high. And look where we are now. So whether it's Iran, whether it's a double top, whether it's the fact that it's now illegal to buy a software company, and by the way, there's a lot of software companies, so it really does hurt the market. There's Adobe, and there's CrowdStrike, and there's Datadog, and there's GitLabs, and there's Hubs, and there's Intuit, and there's MongoDB, and Monday.com. And the point is, there's a lot of software companies, and it's like, it's a goddamn graveyard right now. So that puts some pressure, and namely our president's mouth and Truth Social account. So I took a lot of profits this week, killed it in gold, very happy about that. And now I'm kind of, I want to say loose, but less positions, waiting for opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, that's where the alpha comes from this year, is waiting for a silver short or a gold short. Or, the immunome moment, it pulled back after that wonderful news to 19. We loaded up again. It was at 26 the other day. So given that we have a lot of MAG7 names coming, we still have Amazon next week, which is the one I'm actually pretty bullish on and still long stock. I kind of tightened things up, took some profits, and can't wait to maybe sleep this weekend because I feel like it's Friday. I'm tired.
I know this has been a long week for sure. Okay, you mentioned it really briefly. Somebody wants to know your thoughts about immunome here, or we're up over 25.
What's their name? Does it say their name?
He's from YouTube, and his username is
not important. I was going to make a joke, but I didn't know if I knew the person. Anyway, so here are my thoughts. I don't want to bore people. Just understand you have one of the premier management teams in the history of biotech. You have a man who didn't come on to, he doesn't need to make $50, $100 million. Just, he's already killed it in life. He came on to build the next monster biotech company. He's already proven out the model. He bought a company for pennies on the dollar, and now, due to a positive phase 3 trial, he's made 4 to 5 times his investment. He's going to do that over and over again. So if you're someone who's looking for alpha long-term, 2, 3, 400% more, it is a wonderful company to own a portion of your position. However, if you were a size buyer at 10, who knows, at 7, maybe even 5 or 12, you would be, frankly, out of your mind not to have taken some profits or sell some calls. So I think the short-term path is into the low 20s. I'd be a buyer, I know for myself. I think that this year there is very likely a 32 to 35 handle easily. That's pretty darn conservative. And ultimately, I believe if he makes a new acquisition, right, and just raise more capital, he'll get credit for it. So you have to understand the way this works. It's almost financial arbitrage. What Clay, the CEO, has done, and it happened for a while, is he raises capital and they say, oh, that's the dude who literally created CJ. So if he raises 500 million, he's going to make it worth $1 billion. And the stock price goes up. Literally, the stock price goes up. And then we had the great bad biotech depression, and it went down with everything else. Well, now Clay has proven it works. He did it again. So the next time he raises capital in stocks or makes an acquisition, he's going to get credit for that acquisition ahead of time. So my point is, I'm very bullish. I think it's north of 50 in the not too distant future, I would be a buyer on pullbacks, and I would force yourself to look for 20 to 22 to get aggressive again. And those are my thoughts. But
North
wonderful
of
long-term
50.
outlook and management.
Nice. All right. Sam, he said his name is Sam Robinson, who asked about
Cool.
Immunome. So maybe you do know him.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was a friend I know, because I was going to make a joke. But no, I don't know Sam. I hope Sam's been in it and done well with it.
All right. He said, thank you very much. I'm long from 8 because you brought it to my attention. So,
yo, Sam, you want to manage my money? Good for you, Sam. Congrats.
Yeah, that's a great move from 8. Wow, that's awesome. Okay. I've kept you longer than you told me I could have you. So thank you for your time, David.
You said it was our first time this year. I was like,
yeah.
So then I was like, okay.
Apple is today. So just real quick, thoughts on Apple before before the report today. You did some calls last week ahead of the report.
So I saw a level on the chart into a pivot that it bottomed at last year in October, 244. Like always, I don't start right there. I started 3 or maybe 4 points before, and I started buying 255 calls. I said, guys, I love this trade. As it gets really ugly into 244, I'll go full size. I really think it'll work before the print. We'll make money. We'll take most off, and we'll play with house money. Well, that's what we did. But then the calls got nuts because the stock had such a big bounce, right? And I just said, I'm going to get flat. They were like deep in the money because the 255s and the stock was 261. So I got flat yesterday. Anyway. So now it's kind of like pull back a little bit. I like it into the print because it's not a bad setup. It's off highs. I don't love it. So here's your setup. You have a company with minimal growth that is trading at 30 times earnings. You have a nice story out there that the mini Mac has been like a boom in sales due to the Claude bot, and that's like awesome, right? And that's cool, but it's not a necessity. People using Claude and doing this, they don't need to use it. So it's not like a technology advantage. It's more like they stepped in crap and they're going to make a lot of money off of it, but it's not a long-term thing. So what you ultimately have is you have a company where we've heard sales are going to be pretty damn solid. Handset sales, services, we're hearing should be really good. And the stock came in like 30 bucks or so. So, or at 1.40. So I liked it. Now we've bounced even. And I think the end all the way, everyone looked at CapEx with Meta is going to be pretty basic. If memory has been hedged, or if they talk about it as a minor issue that they've dealt with, but it's not going to eat into their earnings next quarter, then I really think the stock can bounce as long as it does have those strong handset sales and services number. If they say, memory got to levels we never anticipated, we're not going to be able to pass all of it off to the consumer, and we're going to take a hit, a massive hit, but a hit to it, stock's right back down. So I really think how memory affects them will probably direct the stock.
All right, good stuff. That's the Apple report coming today, and then we get more next week. Amazon, Google, etc. All right, David, you and me are hosting a webinar on Monday, and they'll be completely free for everyone to come and learn from you.
For me too? Or do I have to pay?
You don't have to pay.
Okay, cool.
Definitely not. So anyone who's interested in joining us on Monday to get David's game plan for the year, the first quarter, and see how his community is doing, you go to t3live.com/DP to sign up for that. Again, it's completely free. With me and David at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. David, have a great rest of your day. Hope you have a good, hope Apple earnings are good for you. And then you can get some rest this weekend.
Have a great day, everyone. Good luck out there.
All right. Bye.